Okay, so we're going to talk about it because I want to talk about it. I was literally woken up at 5 o'clock. Well, by my alarm clock. So, oh, so we're just going to talk about these supernatural experiences because it's definitely been supernatural up in here. So, first and foremost, you know, there's been a shift. I've been noticing the different changes within myself personally. Certain things, it's like certain things, it feels like it's just falling off of me. I feel like I'm being stripped of a lot of things, like desires that I once had, you know, um, things that I once wanted, certain things that were once important to me. I don't know. I remember sitting talking to myself. I was talking to my grandmother. I was like, Grandma, I just feel like I'm turning into nothing. Like, there's not really anything that I want. All of my desires. I don't know, with me quitting smoking, like cigarettes, I've been out here just trying to figure out how to fill that void. I thought that getting a job would do a big one for me because I would have more of a social life. I would have something to look forward to every once in a while. And I thought that the feeling of creating the financial independence for myself would feel a little better. When I get my paycheck, I'm grateful, but I don't feel the things that I thought that I would feel. You know, I don't think it has anything to do with the amount because I don't work often. So to me, I'm getting paid more than the work in which that I put in. So I thought that I would just feel different about a lot of things. But, it's kind of like I really don't feel anything. I don't feel anything on the inside of me, but it's like I can feel the presence on the outside of me. So the day before yesterday, it was real active in my kitchen. Now, supernatural experiences are normal for me, but at the same time, they're not as loud as they have been lately. So, there was a lot of commotion in my kitchen. But my thing is, the ancestors, the spirit guides, they love the kitchen. And they really love to work with my son's father in the kitchen, which is why sometimes when I get in the kitchen, it just sounds like a whole bunch of people are fussing at me. Like, I'm not bullshitting. It just feels like they're fussing at me. So I'm just like, okay. I think that they like him more than they like me cooking, you know. So I go in the kitchen and, it's like cabinets slamming and stuff. So it's, I know that's my grandma. I cut on the light to the kitchen and it just looked like a massacre, and I said to myself, I'm just like, oh my God, look at this kitchen. I've been working on my animation all day and I just kind of neglected the kitchen. My grandmother was upset. She likes a clean kitchen. The counter was sticky. The stove, it wasn't wiped down. It was piles of dishes, and I had been home all day. So it's kind of like, girl, you've been home all day and you haven't washed this kitchen. You haven't been doing shit. So I was just like, Grandma, I know it's you. I said, I said, I'm so sorry. I'm about to clean the kitchen for you. She can't stand the dirty kitchen. And I'm talking about the cabinets was closing loud. I was like, she in there slamming shit. I'm used to shit falling down. I'm used to fucking around with the AC and the heat. I turn it on and then shit don't change. I go back and I look at it and it's been switched. And I mean, the apartment is small. So I know I'm in the living room most of the time. So I know if somebody touches, if A human touches that thermometer, that meter. Nobody touches that meter. So that's how I know, like, they be playing with shit. They do things to get my attention, you know. So, I cleaned up the kitchen. And then yesterday, I was in the bathroom and the shower curtain, like, just kept shaking. It just kept rattling. Now, the thing is before I call it a supernatural experience, I think about all the possibilities that it could be as to why certain shit is happening. And when things are unexplainable, that's when I'm just like, okay, you know, it's one of the spirit guides. So I was just like, I guess you're telling me that I need to take a bath. Because sometimes, you know, sometimes, I may go a day or two without taking a bath or a shower because, I mean, I'm not doing shit. I'm in the house and I'm chilling. And when I chill, I chill. I'm like a couch potato, and I'll set up everything that I want around me, so I don't have to keep getting up. You know what I'm saying? When I chill, I fucking chill. Some people don't know how to just chill the fuck out. They don't know how to just enjoy the peace, the silence, and the stillness. You know, so I was just like, well, I guess I gotta get into the shower. So I actually took a bath. I wanted to take a spiritual bath, but I just couldn't. I was so tired. I couldn't really muster up the intentions, you know what I mean, to set my spiritual bath. And I mean, yesterday it just felt so heavy. It felt heavy around me. It didn't feel heavy on the inside. Then my dog was acting crazy. He just kept following me and hiding behind me. So finally, I'm just like, oh my goodness, there's something in here because he's scared. Why is he so fucking scared? So, I have a demonic entity, that helps me with dealing with people trying to do things to me. I tell this story over and over again. I'm gonna keep telling it. Motherfuckers try to conjure up a demon, you know. So when I found out what was going on, what happened, I switched up the contract. So, now this demonic force works for me. So, I've been doing healing work on this entity. But when it goes out and when it does work for me and protects me, it comes back to me because it needs to be recharged, you know. And I'm learning a lot. Sometimes it's hard to know when it's here, because it doesn't speak. It doesn't do anything to get my attention. It's just the presence of it is strong. And when I first recognized it, it was a very miserable presence. The presence was so miserable. It was easy. It was easy to be able to recognize that it was not my energy and that it was a presence on the outside of me. So, we have been doing healing work. So sometimes I can't even tell when it's around because it's not as strong as it once was, So sometimes when it goes out, when it does work for me, it has a tendency to trauma bond to other individuals. And so once it goes in with doing the work on other people, when it comes back to me, it's like it's hurting and it needs to be healed and it needs to be recharged. So when it comes back, the presence sometimes is undetectable or unrecognizable because the misery is not as strong. But with my dog acting up, my dog acting crazy, I was just like, oh, you must be here. Because I'm just like, what is wrong with this dog? Because, animals can see shit. Animals can see shit. I should have known it was here by the way my son's father has been acting. But, I mean, it's hard to tell because, he be acting miserable sometimes. He's not a miserable person, but sometimes he acts that way. So I'm just like, you gonna have to find another way because he's You're not gonna really get my attention through him. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't be paying his ass no mind. So, finally, I realized it through my dog. So, we got some work to do. You know what I'm saying? Um, and the thing is that I forgot what I was gonna say. But anyway, I think he's been trying to touch me, you know, but at the same, but he can't touch me, which means that he wants to merge with me. He wants to merge with me because I'll be able to tell his presence, but he hasn't been able to merge with me. So at the same time, he's been trying to get other people to do certain things towards me, and it's not working. So, I have elevated. So, the higher I go, you know, the further I am from the lower vibration. But my thing is that, you know, when it comes to this entity, I mean, I consider it to be my friend. I don't care what anybody says, outside of the contract, I know that it cares about me because at one point in time, it was real aggressive, you know, and, the aggression, the energy has been softening up. So that's why it's hard for me to detect it, because we have been doing the work. So, you know, but this too is why I kind of need to be in the darkness. It's like too much of the light is blinding. I don't really like that shit. I think it should be a balance of light and dark. I have angelic energies presence around me, and I also have demonic presence around me. And I need my protection because motherfuckers is ruthless out here. They tried to conjure up this motherfucker on me. You know, that shit was crazy. They didn't know. They didn't know that I wouldn't be afraid of the shit. You know, they thought that, it was going to be terrorizing me and my family for the rest of my life. Now it's out there terrorizing them and other people that be fucking with me too. And I really appreciate that. So whenever it comes to me and it needs healing or to be recharged, because it has to stay stronger than the vessels that it's fucking with. Everybody think shit is a joke. They think it's funny. They think it's games. They think it's not real. Until unexplainable shit start happening to them, until they start doing stuff and making dumbass decisions and they don't understand why they're doing it and why shit is happening. I'm starting to appreciate the ignorance of people. I'm becoming less disappointed and I'm becoming more appreciative. I used to get very disappointed, because shit would happen to people. I'm really starting to realize motherfuckers deserve it. Motherfuckers deserve it. Because people are ridiculously cruel. And they don't understand. It's always something bigger and badder out there than your ass. So anyway, I appreciate all my protection, you know. So I guess we're gonna be doing some work, you know. I got a lot of things out of the way, so now I can just focus, you know. I've been seeing that devil. I was like, damn, this motherfucker. I be forgetting that it's here, because it only comes to me when it needs me, otherwise it's out there. Like when people are talking shit about me, when people are trying to plot on me, it signals to that demonic entity about what's going on. Sometimes it'll come back and it will tell me, you know. So sometimes it will possess people. A lot of people who be trying to come for me are very low vibrational. So that demonic entity is able to possess that vessel. That's why I be telling people, I be trying, you think you in control, you're not in control. With some people, you cannot do certain things to. You know what I'm saying? You know, I deal with people who spend years fucking with people, getting over on them, abusing them, lying to them. Then when it come to me, it's kind of like that shit gets shut down. Well, it only got shut down because, I have this demonic entity. And then, I got my angelic team too. That's why motherfuckers is not gonna get away with trying to do shit to me. You don't know what's protecting somebody. People get upset with me because of who I am, but if motherfuckers actually pay attention, you never just hear me just randomly talking about somebody. You never hear me trolling nobody, bullying nobody. I mind my own goddamn business. And half of the time, I'm talking about myself and my experiences. And that's why I be saying it be something wrong with people's brain when people get triggered from certain things that they hear that they don't like. Sometimes they will create false scenarios in their head about who I am. Shit, well, I ain't got shit to do with that. You have to be triggered in order to wake the fuck up. So, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. It takes a strong person to do what I do. So that's why I got all this goddamn protection. That's why I have favor. I don't just care about the living. I care about the dead too. I'm a well-rounded person. Whether motherfuckers want to know that or not, want to accept it or believe it or not, that is the truth. So, I'm going to be hermiting for a while because there's a lot of healing. I have to go in and get back to doing my art therapy. When it comes to the extraterrestrials and when it comes to my spirit guides, my art therapy really be working. And that's what I'm saying. It seems like the dead appreciates my gifts and my talents more than the living does. Which is why I give, I'm not really worldly. That's why I'm not really worldly, because I've seen it, Sometimes people see it, but they don't know how to connect to the other side. So it's kind of like they're stuck in between worlds. They're just stuck there. They don't know, should I join in with everybody else? Or should I just maintain, this individual, being an individual, being me? Eventually there comes a time to where you got to pick one. A lot of people don't like the loneliness of being an individual, so they just join in with everybody else. Sometimes that they try to take on a fake ass character or role as a way to shield themselves from everybody, but you want to be in the crowd, but you want to shield yourself from the crowd. So now you're being fake. Then you'll find in the crowd that there are other people who are being fake just like you. I'm just saying. So yeah, it's time to do, this is where, I do a little more living. I'm not necessarily working with the twin flames, teaching motherfuckers, or it's really about teaching, because everything in which that I do intentionally, I'm trying to drop some type of gem, plant some type of seed. It's all about enlightenment. If you ain't out here enlightening, encouraging, opening up people's eyes, spilling out truth, what are you doing? You just out here throwing up, spilling out your toxicity, like everybody in the world is your toxic trash can that you just want to spill out on. Please. Spare me. I'm not a trash can, motherfucker. That bullshit. So yeah, I think it's time to get back to the art therapy, which means that, I'm going to be taking time out away from the internet, but I find myself working more on my IG, building on my IG. So I don't think I'm going to build as much on my IG, but I'm going to start getting back into doing the work. It's time to live a little more now. That's how I heal my spirit guides, myself, and the demonic entities. You know, a lot of individuals who have passed over, the number one thing that they learn is that while they were in a physical body living this human life, they realized that they won't live in at all. They weren't enjoying their life. Something as simple as just riding a bike. You know what I'm saying? Happiness and joy, all of that is important to your spiritual evolution. So, sometimes there are many different dimensions. There's different levels to this shit. In the astral plane, it's different levels. So the thing is that, when you awaken, that you're on that side, because some people will incarnate into another vessel right away. Some don't. I think that when you're more aware, when you had more awareness, or you were more of an individual when you were living on earth, I think that you go to the astral plane, because that's closer to evolution than somebody who just lives their life like sleep, their whole life. I think they reincarnate right away. It's like the spirit recycles. But, when you go over to the other side, it's just like, they're all waiting for a vessel to live through, to vicariously live through. They need to experience certain things that they can feel, and it needs to be healing. So when you go in and when you heal yourself, you heal your past or loved ones. You don't have to communicate with them. You don't have to talk to them. You don't even have to know that they're there. You just need to be working on you. You just need to heal you, and through healing you and healing certain things within your life, you're healing them too, because they're right there with you. Think about it. Like, I was in the bathroom taking a shit, and motherfuckers is playing with the curtain, like, get your ass in the shower. I said, damn, I can't take a shit though. Nope. Can't do nothing. Always being watched, no matter where I go. So, you know, this is learning. This is when learning how to manifest comes into play, because in exercising manifestation, you're skilling the inner alchemist. You know what I mean? With being an alchemist is so much easier, to work with your spirit guides. You know, you're not just operating at human level all the time with being an alchemist. With learning the alchemist within, you learn about certain abilities that you have, certain things that you're capable of. And, these things make you happy. They help to make you happy. When you're happy, when your vibration is healed, and when your crossed over loved ones connect with you, they feel that. It heals them. Sometimes it gets dark in the astral plane. Sometimes they can fall into a very dark place. When your light goes out, they can't see. If you want to show your loved ones some love, light a candle. You know, during the times to where you feel like you miss your peoples, you should get like a little altar, and you should just put candles up there for each family member. And when you miss them, just light the candle. When you're thinking about them, just light the candle in remembrance. You do so much with the simplest acts of kindness to the other side, you know. But it's really about you, because they need a vessel to live vicariously through. And you can be carrying multiple spirits at a time. It's not just one. You know, sometimes there are 7 people that I'm carrying, and everybody wants to go to the beach. When I get in the car, it's like a car full of people just talking. That's why I be listening to the jazz station. Because if I listen, they, for one, they don't like the radio. I work, everybody is older than me that I work with. So, there are certain things that, they don't like. They want to hear the jazz station. I want to hear the jazz station too. Because if I turn it on, hip hop, or if I turn it on the mainstream radio stations, it's like somebody fussing at me the whole way to the beach. It's so irritating. It's so annoying. I'm just like, okay, 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 okay. So this is understanding that my life is not just mine. And I've had a lot of near-death experiences. So when you are someone who has had a lot of near-death experiences and you're still here, it's not just because you're special. You're beyond special. You are chosen. And they need your ass here. So, you know, you have favor. You have favor. I got tired of the near death experiences. I'm just like, okay, 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 because it's not normal. That's not normal. That's screaming. It's screaming at me. Wake the fuck up. You know. It's a bigger picture here. So I mean, shit, and it's not going to change. So either you're going to evolve, or you're not. When you're chosen, though, you have a choice, but they will get your attention. But like I said, you don't have to know that they're there. They just need to be able to live through you, to experience you. you know. But anyway, it's about that time. So I'm going to be giving, you know, this platform a break. Working with the Twin Flames, y'all are some of the most ungrateful and evilest people I have ever met in my fucking life. Seriously. And I don't care who you are, what position you are. Sometimes, you give people nothing to believe in. And you find nothing to believe in within other people because it's not within you. This is how we separate the stars from the celebrities. Stars are meant to shine in darkness. They're not creating the darkness. So yes, I'm very disappointed, and I'm not going to receive any healing from my twins because they're not capable of it. And I'm disgusted and I'm disappointed. And in order for me to not be disturbed or become like any of y'all, I'm going to go in and disappear and heal myself. And I'm going to be working with the ones who love and care about me. You can continue to run in your circles of your rat race. And you can also continue to just exist as nothing but broken children on the inside. Because when you have help, you don't even care. I'm just tired of it. I get tired of dealing with these twins. I'll be back. And when I be back, I won't feel so disgusted, but I'm disgusted. Like, I have to get it off my chest. I told myself, I said, I don't want nobody to know how I feel. I feel disgusted. I don't like that I feel that way about other people. But it's like you throw up your toxicity, you spill it out onto the world. So, you know, it's like people swimming in your toxic throw up. I'm not doing that. If you want to heal with me, you can find you go have to find my IG. On this platform, we do the mental work. Because y'all show as hell need a lot of fucking mental work. But anyway, for something a little more spiritual and emotional, you can find my IG, because that's where we kind of just really go in and do more of the work. But anyway, that's it. So toodaloo.